Hey there, welcome to Hovey on YouTube. Today just a quick look at a Robeson scout knife from the 1920s or 30s. This is an unofficial scout knife, and these are quite hard to get. Robeson, it's a popular name with collectors. I won't go into the history of the company a lot because I've already done a video on a scout knife from the 1950s of theirs with the strawberry bone covers that they're kind of famous for. And in that video, I go into depth history of the company with pictures and everything else. So I'll put a link here if you want to go watch that video. I'll put a card at the end of this video that links to it as well if you'd like to learn a little more about the Robeson Cutlery Company. And it is a cool company. It's an old line company, started back in like 1894. I think they were an independent company up until 1965. And they've got a connection with the Case family. But this is just a great old knife. And just look at these brown bone covers. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Robeson used brown or green bone up until about 1940 or so, and then in the middle of the 40s there, they started coming out with their strawberry bone covers, which are so popular. And then like in 1960, they went to Delrin like everybody else, which I'm sure was more practical, but just not nearly as pretty. So this is 3 5/8 inches, and a lot like the style of the old scout knives from the 20s and 30s. This one does have smooth bolsters, no line. I do really like the bail. It is really nicely attached with these very tiny little pins that are domed out, and you've got this little flared out shoulder here. But then look at the shape of it, how it comes straight out and then goes into pretty much a circle. You can get your finger all the way through that. That's really nice. And then this one's not bent out of shape in any. I don't know how it survived all these years not getting bent out of shape, because nickel silver is actually pretty easy to bend. These have a much bigger shield than most other knives, and the word scout is really deeply stamped in there, and it's quite large. Makes it a little different. Brass liners, all carbon steel, brass pins. But Robeson did some different things with their opening tools, their can opener, screwdriver, cap lifter, that I want to show you in a minute, which is kind of neat, it's kind of innovative, but I got to say they're not my favorite knives because of that. And that's just a personal preference. I guess this is about the third one of these I've had, and it certainly is the oldest, rarest, and the nicest. The main blade is a spear point blade, as you'd expect, crescent nail nick. Now, obviously this knife was heavily corroded at one time, and someone aggressively polished or ground it to remove some of that pitting and staining. But it's still mostly there. These are hard to find in good shape. I've brightened it up a little bit, put an edge on it. It's very sharp. And the knife's got good snap all the way around. Here's the Tang stamp on this. It's Robeson in block letters, straight line, and then underneath that in script, sure edge. There's a line under that, and it's probably going to be very hard to read, but I believe it says Rochester, New York. And according to Goins' Encyclopedia of Cutlery Markings, that's a 1922 to 1940 Tang stamp that Robeson used. According to All About Pocket Knives website, they have a Robeson Tang stamp guide, 1922 to 1939. So this knife is squarely from those decades, the 1920s or 1930s. On the back, there is a model number. And Robeson had one of the best numbering systems out there. So the very first digit you see there, 6, indicates the type of handle material. There were 10 different choices, digits 0 through 9, and 6 was bone or stag. The next digit you see there, 4, indicates the number of blades, 4 on a scout knife. Then the next number actually indicates the material of the linings and the bolsters. And the brass nickel silver combination could have either been a 2 or a 6. And then the last either 2 or 3 digits, 3 in this case, are going to be your pattern number, and this one is 214. So that's pretty cool. A lot of information in that model number there. Here is one of the different or more innovative tools that Robeson used. By the way, this tool is also marked, and it's Robeson block letters in an arc underneath cutlery, and USA block letters in the middle. But this is kind of a combination cap lifter can opener. And you can see it has this interesting pull on it here, a cutout to get a hold of it. And what I think is interesting about it, instead of that being like a solid diameter, it's shaped kind of like a nail head. And that's kind of what I don't like about it. It's very painful to open. Every single time that edge goes right under your nail, and it's really quite uncomfortable to open it. I think what they were going for there is this. I think this is one of those type of can openers where, you know, going against the back spring here, you puncture the can. Then you take it out, turn it over, go back into your hole there and start working up. Again, going against the back spring. And that this shape was helpful in going over the lip of the can. So I think they're trying to do two things there, give you an opener and give you a thing that goes over the lip of the can. Because the cap lifter is on the can opener, you have a solid screwdriver. And they didn't waste that opportunity. They put a file on one of the edges, a metal file here, which is a great idea, although I don't know how effective it would be because you have such a short stroke here. But better than nothing. And a thoughtful way to use a little real estate on the knife there. Give you an additional tool. Now, the screwdrivers on these have always been really hard for me to open. They don't put the nail nick far enough toward the tip for you to get a lot of good leverage. It's very shallow, and it lays really deep in the knife there. The one I had from the 50s had a little cutout here like this, so you could get hold of it better. This one does not. So while the tool operates smoothly and it's nice and snappy, it's hard to get a hold of. And then on the back here, we've got an awl. It does have a cutout. It's easy to get open. It has a marking, and I probably should have looked at this more carefully before I started filming, but it's a patent number. It's a patent applied for number there. And you can kind of see the P's kind of gone, but the AT and the abbreviation for applied for, and then there's a date, actually, I believe. Maybe I can figure that out, put it up on the screen for you. This is a configuration that you see a lot on these older knives where you have a nail nick and then a groove. Not a lip, just a nail nick, and then you have like a cutting groove for boring and scraping. So that's a beautiful knife. That's a Robeson Sure Edge. They also used the brand name Pocket Ease a lot. They're very popular. And they used those Pocket Ease on the knives that had fully sunken joints. So they were easy on your pocket. Hey, thanks for taking a look at this Robeson Scout knife with me. I appreciate you. And as always, have fun collecting.